Scientists are releasing billions of mosquitoes into the wild to combat mosquito-borne illness. But shouldn't that only make the problem worse? Well, there's something special about these mosquitoes. They've been infected with bacteria in the genus Wolbachia. These bacteria infect both insects like mosquitoes and nematodes. And when Wolbachia infect mosquitoes, they have a clever strategy to ensure their propagation. Wolbachia spreads between mosquitoes by vertical transmission. That means from parents to offspring. Or more specifically in the case of Wolbachia, from mothers to their offspring. Infected males don't transmit the bacteria. But while infected male mosquitoes are a bit of a dead-end for Wolbachia, that doesn't mean they don't play a role in its spread. When an infected male mosquito reproduces with an infected female mosquito, infected offspring are produced as we would expect. However, when an infected male mosquito reproduces with an uninfected female mosquito, the offspring are not viable and none of the eggs can hatch. That's because sperm from the infected males contains a protein that makes it toxic to mosquito embryos unless they also contain another protein that the bacteria produces in females. So, in an uninfected female, the embryo doesn't have the needed corresponding protein to neutralize the toxin and the eggs will never hatch. So, infected female mosquitoes always produce infected offspring, and while infected males may not transmit the bacteria themselves, they still will only ever produce infected offspring. This mechanism is called cytoplasmic incompatibility, and I just explained how it helps Wolbachia spread through mosquitoes, but how is it helping us? Most obviously, cytoplasmic incompatibility has the potential to reduce wild populations of mosquitoes, temporarily at least. But there are a couple of more nuanced reasons that releasing these infected mosquitoes is helpful as well. As it turns out, a Wolbachia infected mosquito is a less hospitable host for many pathogens that mosquitoes spread to humans, like dengue, West Nile virus, and the protozoan that causes malaria. So, if Wolbachia can be spread throughout mosquito populations, it could reduce the prevalence of these pathogens in mosquitoes and their ability to spread them to humans. Wolbachia infection might also reduce mosquito lifespan, which is beneficial because older mosquitoes have more time to pick up human pathogens and therefore also to spread them to humans. In releasing Wolbachia infected mosquitoes, scientists are hoping that they will replace uninfected ones or spread the bacteria to them to ultimately reduce the burden of mosquito-borne pathogens in humans. However, caution is warranted with this approach. Playing God by introducing more of this bacteria into ecosystems could interfere with any ecology the mosquitoes are involved with. However, when human lives are at play, at the end of the day, there can be a lot of positives that make these risks worthwhile. Also, there may be cases where specific species of Wolbachia in specific species of mosquito could make them more hospitable hosts for certain pathogens. So caution needs to be taken in evaluating each species of bacteria used and which species of mosquito it's introduced to, all the while keeping in mind that cross-species transfers could plausibly occur. However, there isn't a ton of literature to suggest that this actually is a problem, so I don't mean to fear-monger with this line of cautioning. Wolbachia are a tool for us when we employ their parasitic relationship with mosquitoes to our advantage. But Wolbachia also have a nicer, more mutualistic interaction with a different one of our enemies, the filarial nematodes, a group of helminthic human parasites. Human-infecting parasitic worms in the genuses Wolbachia and Brugia cause lymphatic filariasis, which among other pathologies entails debilitating swelling of the limbs and other body parts that I won't go into. They are endemic across wide swaths of the global south. Wolbachia have become obligate symbionts in many of these worms, meaning that the worms cannot propagate without them. Wolbachia bacteria also may contribute directly to disease caused by these filarial parasites in humans. In some cases, the worms themselves don't cause very much pathology, but the release of bacteria from the worms can trigger harmful reactions from our immune system. But since the worms can't live without their symbionts, one means of treating infections from these worms is to use antibiotics that don't actually affect the worms themselves, but kill the bacteria in them. Without their symbionts, the worms die out soon after. So, the variety of different types of symbiotic interactions that Wolbachia take on can mean that they are sometimes our friend and sometimes our foe. The fact that Wolbachia infect both insects like mosquitoes as well as helminths like the filarial nematodes I talked about was surprising to me because they're not necessarily super related types of animals. But then I remembered while I was researching this video that the filarial nematodes like Wolbachia and Wolbachia are carried by mosquitoes between people, like that's how they're transmitted. And so I guess it's not that surprising to me, or I guess it would be a plausible story if Wolbachia started as a symbiont in one of the two, whether it's mosquitoes or insects in general or the nematodes, and then crossed over to the other because, again, the filarial nematodes are in such close association with mosquitoes. If I had to guess, I'd say Wolbachia made it start as a symbiont in the nematodes and then crossed over to mosquitoes because they have a much, the relationship with the nematodes is more mutualistic and less parasitic, and generally the longer a symbiont or parasite spends with its host, the better adapted it is to it, and so it's less harmful to its host and may even be beneficial to it, like our gut microbiomes, to use a perhaps oversighted example. But that's purely speculation. This is just one little link, and Wolbachia infect lots of organisms beyond the specific genuses or species I covered in this video. I'm curious what your thoughts are.